This is Chandra Easton, just continuing on with the teachings on the Hermetic way. We're going to move now to some of the source of where the teachings came from. Who were the ancient wisdom teachers who left this immortality code for us to find? You could say we haven't been doing a very good job of finding it, really, given the state of the world at the moment. Okay, yes, so just to start, I can't really speak about Hermeticism and the path to immortality without starting with a quote from Helena Petrovna Blavatsky, which comes from The Secret Doctrine, when she speaks about the one flame. And HPB says the fire is the most perfect and unadulterated reflection in heaven as on earth of the one flame. It is life and death, the origin and the end of every material thing. It is divine substance. So there's that Hermetic principle again, as above, so below. The universal substance, the source, is really, it's one flame, and the closest that we have on earth to this is fire. It is the most perfect and unadulterated reflection of heaven on earth. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about the fact that God is fire. And esoterically we refer to three fires that are available to humanity to assist us in this perfecting of our personal selves and our uniting with our higher self, the soul, and imbibing the energy of our divine self. So the three selves, the three aspects of our self, the personality, the soul, and the immortal self, are paralleled and each have a particular fire. Fire by friction for the personality, solar fire for the soul, and electric fire in order to cleanse the path. So these fires, they do just that. They help us remove the dross and cleanse the path. Fire by friction for ordinary humanity, well, that's just learning through our own blood, sweat and tears, through our own experiences, through our own mistakes, learning the tough way. It's the school of life. The first fire. The fire eventually will do its work, and we'll realise that the friction way, using the personal will, little will, is, it's tough and hard. And is it the only way? No, it's not. And after, who knows, thousands of incarnations, we will then begin to realise that what we're actually looking for is solar fire. And the solar fire is the fire of choice for those who are working to perfect the soul. You could say it's the fire of, I've got knowledge here, but I think really the best description would be the fire of wisdom, which transmutes and transforms and slowly removes impurities to bring out the soul light in the disciples within. Yes. Okay, and the third fire, which matches the third stage of the path, because we have ordinary humanity who are on the ordinary path and aspiring towards the spiritual path. We have the souls who are learning to stand in greater and greater fire, greater and greater soul light upon the path, the early stages of the path, and further along the path. And the third fire that we need is electric fire. You could say that this is the one flame, and most of us have no contact to electric fire, and our lives are defined by fire by friction, doing it tough, doing it hard, making it difficult for ourselves, and contact with our solar fire, the light of intuition. And eventually, over many incarnations, we will get enough perfection happening in the personality and enough contact to the soul that we begin to access or come closer to the electric fire of the one flame, of the one heart of Father, Mother, God. And on behalf of all of us, until we get to that point, this one flame is wielded by the initiates. And the initiates are really those souls who can be trusted to stand and hold the light according to their dharma and their karma on behalf of others. They work for the earth. So that's an attempt to explain the three fires, which are, of course, in different frequency and different potency. Yes, and this does correlate, of course, to the fires burning within the physical organism, or as the Chinese medical practitioners refer to it, as the triple burner through the solar plexus, the throat, and the head centres. Just a brief recap here on the Hermetic Way and the seven Rubikses, and I've translated these 7 Rubikses into I've taken the liberty, whether I've got it right or not is another thing, of translating them into more modern language. So the first Rubik's, the Rubik's of calcination. The first time we encounter the fire, literally we go into the sacred fire. That's the first step, which is known as the 7th step, because we're taking ever increasing, larger, ascending steps. The 6th step, which in the old teachings is called dissolution, I refer to as moving through and seeing beyond and through the astral veil. The 5th step, which in the old teachings is referred to as the overcoming of separation, operating in the lower mental plane, I've referred to that as living in truth, being able to negotiate and navigate around what our mind would tell us to be true and what the soul recognises as truth from the higher mental plane. The next step is the 4th step, referred to as conjunction in the old teachings, and you could say that the 4th step is the culmination of the building or the utilising or the harnessing of the philosopher's stone. It's the middle step. Between these 7 steps, there are the first 3 before it and there are 3 after it. It's the middle step that relates, of course, to the middle chakra, the heart chakra, and I've referred to this step as the kiss of angels. We could speak for millennium, so much work, inner work. This is what we're covering here is the esoteric framework for the work, the healing work that we all need to do in order to remodel ourselves in the likeness of our soul and spirit. Okay, that's step 3. So we've moved into the higher echelons of fire now. We've moved beyond fire, the fire by friction. We've been moving through solar fire, and we're moving in the direction of electric fire here on step 3. The ancients called step 3 fermentation. It sort of brings to mind the bubbling pot of the alchemists, and I've referred to this step as the call to world service. Yes, which the higher disciples and the lesser disciples begin to resonate to this electric fire, the electric flame, and therefore the process of fermentation and the dharma of world service. Okay, step 2, the next step in the old teachings was referred to as distillation, and I've referred to this as the call towards divine love. And of course what I haven't talked about here is the fact that the Hermetic Way weaves the path of mysticism and the path of occultism. And so you could see that step 7 and 5 and 3 and 1, that's the odd numbers are on the path of occultism, and steps 6 and 4 and 2 are on the path of mysticism. So yes, the call to divine love is the path of mysticism known as distillation. And step 1, the final step for the Hermetic Way, for the perfection of the triad within ourselves here in the earth sphere, is known, I think there's another name for it, I've got union here. There's various names in various ancient teachings, and I've called it surrender. And by the time we arrive at that step 1, we've learned something about what it is to be our divine selves living in a human form on Earth, with the goal for the uplifting of the planet and the raising of consciousness in our solar system, and therefore a lifting of the vibration galactically and universally. The greater philosopher's stone. Okay, Hermes, the thrice-born Hermes. Some images here of Hermes from the ancient Egyptian times, and whether Hermes came from Atlantis and previous to Atlantis came to us from another planet. That would be what I imagine. And you'll see here some of the roles of Hermes. He has the staff of Hermes, the rod of healing, the pyramids sitting in the background, the divine eyes surrounding the eagle above, god of resurrection. Hermes was known by many things. He was referred to as, he carries the ankh in one of these images here, the symbol for immortality, and has the serpent crown above his head. In one of the images he also looks bird-like or ibis-like. He's a shape-shifter. He was known as the father of writing, and it's purported that there were 20,000 books that he'd written for his pupils to disseminate to humanity, lost here on Earth. We had forgotten, and many of us have still forgotten, that we are a spark of the divine fire, and the teachings were there to awaken this spark within us. So he was a scribe and a teacher, a god of magic, god of the underworld. He's governing the path of occultism, the path of mysticism, and the transition from life to death. He's a guide to the inner worlds, a guide to help us, because it's a very arduous, challenging journey, the entering onto the spiritual path to begin the process of perfection of the triple aspect of our nature. And he's referred to as a psychopomp. The psychopomps are the spiritual guide, so that we don't get lost. He gave us many, 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 many of the teachings and the tools that we find in all world religions and all cultures across our earth. One that I use regularly and have used for the last 40 years is the Unbound Book of Thoth, otherwise known as the Tarot, and specifically the three magisterium of the major arcana are the important. That's a whole talk in itself, and I guess I won't go there. But in terms of understanding something about the journey from death to immortality, from darkness to light, you couldn't go better than to begin a study of the Unbound Book of Thoth. Okay, so Hermes Trismegistus was the first of the divine incarnations, the first that we know of. Egyptian antiquity, as I said, I suspect Atlantean, and I suspect Venusian beyond that. Yes. He was also known as the thrice-born Hermes, an avatar for all ages. And the statement of an avatar, I think this comes from Sri Krishna, is having permeated the universe with a fragment of myself I remain. Definitely connected into the bloodline, the avataric bloodline, the immortal, eternal teachers who will never abandon humanity as we strive to move from darkness to light. He may well have been a son of the Lord of the World, the Sanat Kumara, certainly connected in the bloodline. Yes, and so he brought these teachings, and you've got to remember that back in ancient Egyptian times, 1,000, 2,000 years before the birth of Christ, the teachings were not for the masses. It was not possible to access these teachings. One had to be involved in the brotherhood, not the sisterhood, you might say, but the Hermetic brotherhood that was based, I believe, on every continent, but Hermes is known for his connection and his inception and inauguration of the Hermetic Brotherhood of Luxor, and this beautiful symbol here of the Ouroboros with the serpent swallowing its own tail. And of course that's what we need to do. We need to first recognise ourselves as human, redeem the humanity within, recognise ourselves as souls, begin to align the frequency between soul and personality, recognise ourselves as immortal spirit, align the frequency between the immortality of the soul and the physical, to the point that the soul is neutralised and no longer necessary, and thus we come back to the point from which we've started. We are spirit in matter, or matter encased in spirit, but conscious of that. And this symbol of the Hermetic Brotherhood really just describes the path, and you'll notice the four signs of the four symbols for the four signs of the zodiac, the fixed signs of the zodiac. In the top left we have the angel for Aquarius, and in the bottom left we have Taurus the bull, and in the bottom right we have Leo the lion, and in the top right we have Scorpio the eagle or the phoenix. So these four signs demark the path of discipleship, and they demark the various stages of the recognising and purifying and perfecting of ourselves as souls, and the graduation from working on ourselves exclusively to the moving from the path proper to the higher path, where we begin to say, well, what difference can I make to the world, and what is my vocation, and how am I called to service and to love? And so you'll see the symbols for the sun and the moon on either side, and you'll notice the six-pointed star, one light and one dark, which is the symbol for the perfected personality. And within the symbol for the perfected personality we have again the serpent of wisdom with the arrow, the downward pointing arrow. We need to apply the search for wisdom to ourselves, and this is surrounded by the stars 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, because 6 stars, the six-pointed star, the pentacle, the Solomon's seal as it's known, is the symbol for the soul, but the 7 stars around the serpent is the symbol for the adept, a symbol for the initiate, a symbol for having neutralised and move beyond, shed the skin of the soul, so that spirit, our immortal self, is encased in matter, in the personal self. Beautiful image here of Akhenaten, and actually this may not be Akhenaten. Not sure which of the Egyptian pharaohs, maybe the Lady Isis, but I think it is Akhenaten and his wife. Was it Nefertiti? My memory fails me. And of course what we're talking about here is the second of the divine incarnations of the cosmic being who we know as the thrice-born Hermes. And you can see the symbol for the sun. Yeah, that's right, it is Akhenaten. And there's beautiful, beautiful rayed sun sending down help and support and light to earth. And Akhenaten lived, I think it was, I've got the dates here, 1364 through to 1347 BC. And prior to being known as Akhenaten, he was Amenhotep IV, and he attempted to introduce a new religion into ancient Egypt, and for his troubles, well, how many years is that? Looks like 20, is it 17? He was very young. Something interesting, he didn't live a long life. He was assassinated, and the Egyptians went back to their old hierarchical ways. They weren't ready or able or willing to make space in their civilization for the new teachings of Akhenaten. This image of him looks very extraterrestrial to me, very long, elongated face, and I think that he is definitely part of the Hermetic bloodline beyond Earth. Yes, and the movement to the third of the divine incarnations, known as Apollonius of Tyana, also known as Balinus, and this is 1 century after the death of Lord Jesus, and he was a Greek philosopher. You may find it interesting to do some research on what he brought, but this was the third downpouring, the third attempt to bring the Hermetic teachings to humanity who had lost their way. Okay, so Hermeticism incorporates so many aspects of the ancient wisdom teachings that work in an alchemical way. So what is alchemy? Well, alchemy incorporates chemistry and physics and astrology and art and interpretation of signs and symbolisms and metallurgy and medicine, mysticism and religion to find the source beyond all outer manifestations. So a multiplicity of approaches to seek for the source. The metallurgists, they worked with the pure gold. And you can think of gold as either a metal from the mineral kingdom on earth, or you can think of gold as spiritual gold, and it's obtained through the transmutation of baser metals. And you could say our personality, our ego, is the baser metal. And how is gold obtained? It's by purging the dross, the impurities from the baser metals until the pure element of gold is alloyed. So it's not a simple thing to access pure gold, and of course we know this because it still governs life on earth, really, pure gold and money and economy, but less, it would be wonderful if there were more souls who were looking for the pure gold on a spiritual level. Beautiful image here of ancient alchemist sitting there with, he's got the staff, like a staff of Hermes that he holds. He has the symbols of duality, the hourglass above him, the as above so below. He's got the fire and the beakers where he's attempting to extract the purity and to neutralise the baser metals. He's sitting pondering. It's a contemplative process, this alchemical process. There are other books in the background. There's also a beautiful unicorn. There's a woman in a painting on a white horse, the symbol for purity, and she faces away from the alchemists towards the inner worlds. We have a symbol for the earth, the globe, sitting large behind the alchemist with what looks like an elf on the world. There's a lot of process to find the formula and apply the formula. The alchemist wears a large ring. There are another couple of elves hidden. They represent the dangers, I think, or there's so many ways one can get sidetracked or lost on the path. On the table next to the alchemist we have a screed of the ancient wisdom teachings standing next to a beautiful candlestick where the candle's burned half down. Many, many symbols here, and probably many more that I haven't seen. We have elixirs in bottles on the table behind. Yeah, the alchemist, he wears a ruby vest, a cape, and a beautiful hat. He's clothed in the blue and the red, the blue of the deep electric fire, and the red, I think, of the royalty. So he's part of the royal brotherhood, the Hermetic royal brotherhood. The alchemists from I'm not sure when alchemy began. Was it the 18th century? Was it the 17th? Somewhere around there. There are very many formulas to move, to go from lead through tin, through iron, gold. And you see in this listing here of the minerals from our mineral kingdom, we also have copper, mercury and silver. So I've attempted, whether I've got it right or not, I don't know, to align the different metals from our metal kingdom to the elementals, the planes of existence, the plane of fire, the plane of water, the plane of air, the plane of earth, the subetheric plane, the subatomic and the atomic. Yes, and I've linked these elements, fire, earth, air and water, the first four. That's the quaternary with those steps 7, 6, 5 and 4. Even though I haven't got the steps there, that's what they correlate with. And right in the middle, in the unity point between the lower three metals, lead, tin and iron, and the higher three metals, the copper, the mercury and the silver, sits gold. Because gold is the resolution point. The fourth or the middle of the metals is the resolution point. I've associated gold to earth. And above those we have the subetheric, the subatomic and the atomic. These are the invisible, I think they're probably called, they correlate probably to the, is it liquid, gas, and I've lost the other one. Yeah, if I had a science background I could tell you what that was. And then I've continued the correlations here, even though I have the numbers, lead being the first and silver being the seventh. I'm referring to that more to do with the steps on the path of initiation. So the first initiation is correlated to fire and lead, and interestingly enough also Vulcan and Uranus, whilst the second initiation is connected to Neptune and tin and so on and so on. And this is kind of outside the scope of this talk, so I won't really go into that's esoteric astrology. I think I'll just ignore that half of the slide. But really I just wanted to point out that the formula of transmuting lead into gold is about working with all the elements, visible and invisible, to remove the purities and thus find a way of having pure gold pure gold. That's compassion really in a physical embodiment. Here's another symbol of the ancient alchemists, and again it's very esoteric. You'll see the sun and moon up the top pouring their essence into a grail, and out of the essence of the sun and the moon comes the androgynous energy of Mercury. And Mercury sits above the sphere in the middle. I would take that to be the universe, as there is the central spiritual sun surrounded by stars. And the symbol directly beneath that is the symbol of the earth, the red circle, the red sphere with the cross above it. So earth is currently it's submerged really. And then on either side of, on the left hand side we have a hand coming out of a cloud pointing towards Saturn. And over on the right hand side we have a hand coming out of the cloud pointing to a symbol that I'm not aware of what that is. So top right astrological symbol is Venus, it's green. Top left astrological symbol is Mars. So we have Mars and Saturn sitting on the solar side of things, and then we have Venus, and I imagine I think it's an ancient sign for Jupiter. Even though it looks like a Z, it's a Jupiter. So we have Venus and Jupiter sitting on the feminine side. You could say that the instruction here is that we have to work to harmonise our masculine Mars with our feminine Venus, and harmonise Saturn with Jupiter in order to come to Mercury, to come to the point of balance, to come to androgyny. So what we have here are the planets that were the only known planets from our solar system in ancient times. None of the planets beyond Saturn were of course visible, so they're not listed here. Yes, and then we have the two heraldic flags. On the left hand side we have the red and blue heraldic flag. I would take that to be a symbolism for the phoenix and the liberation of the dark and the light, and the yin and the yang and the male and the female that comes about when we align ourselves to the constellation, the starry universal constellation that is in the centre of this glyph beneath Mercury. The flag on the right hand side, on the feminine side, is a green lion, I suppose you could say. my mind, I guess I wonder whether in modern theosophical terms we'd connect that to the green Tara. I'm not sure what it represented to the ancient alchemists. And then beneath, and these are linked, so the universe is linked to the heraldic flag of the phoenix and the green lion, and it's linked again by chains down to the earth, and underneath the earth we have a star. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. The seven-pointed star. Now the seven-pointed star is the symbol, I believe, for the Chohans working to bring perfection into our solar system. That's my interpretation. It may well be that the seven-pointed star represents the perfection of the seven rays. It may represent many things, and it's surrounded by the celestial to the left, the starry world, and the terrestrial, the planetary, the earth to the right. So this is really, this seven-pointed star is trying to resolve the gap or the distance or the difference between the celestial spheres, the universal spheres of space and matter. And then around the outside of this beautiful esoteric symbol we have some words. Occultism or occultum. As I mentioned, the path of occultism is associated with the odd numbers, the odd-numbered rays, and it's associated with the study. Then we have lapidem, which I assume is connected to the study of crystals and gemology, and I'm sure that the colours that the alchemists have used here, the red, which I think is for beryl or for garnets, for Mars, and you could follow the rest of them, you know, the gems for Venus and Saturn and Jupiter, the Sun and Moon. Visitor. Now what does visitor mean? I don't know, I'd have to look it up. Not sure. Is it to look beyond? That's what I wonder. Is it the study of space, astronomy? Interiora, to my mind, interiora directs us to reflect upon ourselves and the internal interior life. What that actually meant for the alchemists, I'm not sure. Terra is fairly obvious because it's connected to how do we find spirit in matter. So it's connected to worldly things. Down the bottom we have rectification. Rectification is to resolve a puzzle or a problem and to find a resolution or a solution. And so of course the puzzle or the problem is how to find the elixir of life and become immortal. And this is the code to help us on our way. And the last word is Invenius, and again I don't know what that means. Yeah, my understanding of the alchemist's language is sadly lacking. Yes, alchemy was very much a part and parcel of life in Europe in the, I'm thinking the 16th, the 17th, the 18th centuries, for several hundred centuries. And one of the most famous alchemists is the Lord Count of Saint Germain, otherwise known as the Lord Master R, the regent of Europe. He was a man of letters, a philosopher, an alchemist, a metaphysician. I believe he was a vegetarian. He worked with jewels. So much that could be said again about the Lord Count of Saint Germain. He worked very closely with the royal houses, and he was without a doubt connected to the royal bloodline, the Hermetic bloodline. And it is purported that he lived for more than 500 years, and that he was a very wealthy person, and that he would appear and disappear in different centuries. And that he'd found therefore the elixir of life. You could say that a man of mystery who hasn't disappeared from the current world. He continues to be here to assist us to find our way back from the unreal to the real. Yes, and so that you'll notice that I've been talking about the 7 steps on the path, the Hermetic path, and we live in a septennial tenery universe, and there are 7 alchemical steps, and I was referring to the 7 subplanes, and it's a whole other subject for study, is the 7 sacred planets and the 7 rays of our solar system, and indeed of our cosmos, and the 7 major initiations, and the 7 spiritual laws, and the 7 chakras. Each one of these could take you a lifetime to study. Just pick one of them that you're interested in and investigate. The 7 planes of matter, the 7 races on earth, the 7 archangels, the 7 metals, the 7 oceans. 7 is intrinsic to the code. One of the things that I should say about this code to understanding the path to immortality is that we don't just go from A to B in a linear fashion. It's a spiral, circular path. Think about it like snakes and ladders, and you're proceeding well, and then all of a sudden something happens and you slide back down a snake, and then you find a shortcut and you progress, and we go forwards and backwards, and it's a dance. And this moving through the various steps is part of the dance, and we have our free will, and we're using our free will, and so how well or fast we proceed, or how slow we are, or how many lifetimes or decades we sabotage ourselves or stay in one place, well, that's our call. Yeah. All the Hermetic teachers can do is guide us along the Hermetic principles, and they are ancient philosophical principles to teach us the importance of finding the light within, and then sharing that light, and then radiating that light to the world. And as I mentioned in the first part 1 of this series, we're working with the duality, as above, so below, the microcosm and the macrocosm. And the fundamental principle of Hermeticism is that spirit is matter in its highest form, and matter is spirit in its lowest form. And as I've been talking, there is a Hermetic dynasty that I believe goes all the way back to the Ancient of Days, and those triple incarnations of the thrice-born Hermes, and avatars probably too countless to mention, who have been here to assist us to find our way home. And the current holy host of enlightened ones, the spiritual hierarchy on earth at the moment, the divine mothers of the world, the Chohans, the avatars, the lady of the world who will be coming. We are not short of Hermetic teachers. They have not abandoned us. They come sometimes in the most unlikely form, but they are there. And if when you're ready, when the pupil's ready, the teacher appears. The ancient teachings that Hermes Trismegistus laid down in ancient Egypt and gave to the world were initially connected to something known as the Emerald Tablet. Just as we have our databases and our data in the cloud, the ancients kept their data on a physical tablet known as the Emerald Tablet, a tablet of symbolism that was written in hieroglyphs and encoded, remembering that it wasn't for the ordinary people, it's for those who have earned the right to lift one corner of the veil and seek the path of light. An immortality code, it was also known as the Philosopher's Stone, and it held within it mythology, esoteric sciences, theosophy. Now this is an image here. How real this is and how imagined this image of the Emerald Tablet is, goodness only knows. You can see that it's written in hieroglyphics, and it's surrounded by nature, and there's what looks to be divine fire above it. And as I mentioned, the courts, those in the court of King Arthur were seeking for the Grail and seeking for the Philosopher's Stone, but really the Philosopher's Stone is broken down into 2 aspects of the stone, the Lesser Philosopher's Stone and the Higher Philosopher's Stone. And the Lesser Philosopher's Stone are the first 4 Rubikses that I dealt with in depth in the first part, and that I will continue to deal with in part 3. And those first 4 Rubikses, those first 4 clues or steps, And it's contradictory because even though I refer to them as Rubik's 1 to 4 here, I was referring to them before as 7, 6, 5 and 4. And that's because spirit is matter in its highest form and matter is spirit in its highest form. So the numbering is reversible. And the first 4 Rubikses of the Lesser Philosopher's Stone, the purpose of these is to integrate the personality and to orient us towards the soul light. So in esoteric astrology terminology, we would speak about this as working to redeem the quaternary. That is basically to move from the square towards the triangle, to begin to redeem some of the impurities within our personality, that's the square or the quaternary, and begin to approach the path and the lower way, the path of discipleship. And as I said, we could be going backwards and forwards. We might be doing well and in one life manage to have done something about the first step, Rubik's 7. And then we may lose our way for many incarnations. Then we'll come back again, and with perseverance we might get from step 7 through to step 6, the second of the Rubikses. And then again we might fall down a snake and lose our way. So it's a very cyclical, there's nothing linear. We don't move in a linear fashion through the steps. Although they do denote in a spiral fashion the way forward. So the higher Philosopher's Stone refers to the Rubik's as 5, 6 and 7, the higher 3, or you could think of those as 3, 2 and 1. And they represent this alignment of the soul where we've neutralised and resolved a lot of the tension between the personality of the soul and the soul. The square has been resolved into the triangle where we have our feet firmly upon the path proper, the path of discipleship, and we then begin to orient to begin to resolve the triangle first into a circle, that is duality, and then from the circle into the point. This resolution of the triangle through the circle to the point is another way of saying follow the last 3 Rubikses, 5, 6 and 7, or 3, 2 and 1. And that will take us to the higher way, the way of freedom. How do we do this in modern theosophical terms? We move into the heart of the sun. Remember I spoke about the 3 suns that are part of the Immortality Code? We have the central spiritual sun, we have the solar sun, and we have the physical sun. So the connection, in order for us to move beyond the physical world and beyond the physical sun, through the solar sun, the sun of the soul, towards the heart of the sun, who is really the Lord Maitreya, we need to be able to go into the cauldron of his heart. If you'd like to know more about the Lord Maitreya and the cauldron of his heart, then look up Heart Flow Worldwide or maitreyatheosophy.org for the teachings of Lady Ananditara Shan on the Lord Maitreya, the 5th and future Buddha of Earth. Yes. So I think I'll stop there, and we'll continue with a more in-depth look at the 7 steps in the next talk.